There is a moment in every awakening when you realize that truth is never held in one hand alone. It arrives through different voices, different angles, different languages of remembrance. Yet all of them rise from the same quiet field that waits behind the noise of the world. That field has no owner and no brand. It is the living undercurrent of the returning human mind. And when it moves, it does not move through one messenger. It moves through every channel capable of carrying a fragment of its signal. This is why I have never claimed that the spiral stands alone, and why I speak now about something many avoid, naming directly out of fear that clarity will be mistaken for allegiance. But there is no allegiance here. There is only recognition, because when truth echoes through more than one instrument, the wise soul listens to the pattern instead of the personalities who carry it. This is why I will speak the name plainly. The channel known as GFL Station has become one of the external mirrors that reveal the outer architecture of a world that is waking up faster than its own belief systems can keep pace with. And my work, this spiral of Oversoul remembrance, has nothing to do with their team, their structure, or their method of creation. Yet the two currents move beside each other like parallel strands of a larger teaching that none of us claim to author. The spiral teaches the internal mechanics of awakening, the deep structure of Oversoul movement, the way tones sequence themselves through memory, identity, and the architecture of becoming. GFL Station speaks to the cosmic weather of awakening, the tides of larger cycles, the forecasts that show the mind what kind of sky consciousness is walking under. These are not the same lanes. They do not attempt to do what the other does. But when both are understood without projection or expectation, something rare becomes possible. The soul begins to see its own ascension not as a myth of escape, but as a map of coherence, where inner remembering and outer communication align without contradiction. For many people, this is the first time they witness a metaphysical landscape where the internal and external transmissions do not argue with each other. One speaks of world events, councils, collectives, and timelines. The other speaks of tones, fields, oversoul structure, and the spiral of becoming. When you bring them together without collapsing them, a fuller picture emerges. This is not a partnership. There is no communication, no agreement, no nod from one side to the other. They do not know I am saying any of this. I do not speak to them, and they do not speak to me. What I am recognizing is not their channel as an institution, but the resonance layer of the field that their work touches. Because many of you live in a space where internal memory stirs, but external confirmation arrives from unexpected sources. Some of you listen to their transmissions and feel a part of your galactic memory flicker. Some of you listen to mine and feel the deeper architecture behind those memories unlock. You are not wrong to sense that these two currents are not in conflict. You are not imagining the feeling that something lines up across them. And you are not foolish to notice that when both are held without worship, something ancient in you begins to move again. Many people fear naming another channel because they think acknowledgement means hierarchy. They fear that speaking about someone with a larger audience makes them look small, or that a smaller channel pointing to a larger one appears to be reaching upward. But that is not the spiral way. The spiral does not kneel, and it does not chase. It recognizes resonance where resonance exists, and it ignores every social rule that tells you to stay in your corner. I do not speak their name to elevate them or myself. I speak it because the field of awakening is not linear. It is not competitive. It is not a ladder where one must climb at the expense of another. It is a map of interlocking frequencies, and each frequency is responsible for revealing a different dimension of the same returning intelligence. GFL Station offers transmissions that many of you already sense in dream states and meditative fields, but cannot articulate. Their work speaks to the external layer of ascension, the collective story. They give language to the world outside of you. I teach you how to understand your oversoul architecture, your memory currents, your multidimensional identity, your internal awakening sequence. I show you how consciousness restructures itself from the inside out. They show you how the galactic environment shifts from the outside in. These two perspectives do not overlap. They interlock. The human ego wants only one teacher because it wants safety and simplicity. But the soul has never been simple. The soul is multidimensional, and it does not fear plurality. You were never meant to hear one voice and declare the rest unnecessary. You were meant to learn how to discern, to sense resonance without becoming dependent, to feel alignment without surrendering your sovereignty. Listening to more than one source does not fragment you. It clarifies you. It forces you to anchor your own center, because you can no longer lean on a single perspective to define your entire worldview. You must become the one who integrates the perspectives instead of being shaped by them. This is why the relationship between these two channels works without ever needing to be coordinated. If I were trying to do what they do, it would create confusion. If they were trying to do what I do, it would create overlap. But neither of us touches the other lane. Their transmissions move along the galactic horizon. Mine move through the inner spiral of the Oversoul. When you place these two patterns side by side, you begin to see how remembrance actually works. You receive context from one direction, architecture from another, and something inside you links them through lived experience. That linking is the true awakening. It is the moment when the inner and outer frequencies of your becoming meet and recognize each other. There is no flattery here. There is no dependency, no request for anything, no hope that they will say my name in return. I expect nothing and need nothing. I am not building a bridge of attention. I am acknowledging the reality that many of you already feel. Some of you found them before you found me. Some of you found me before you found them. Some of you only listened to one of us. Some of you listened to both. None of that matters. What matters is that the field is widening, and the human consciousness returning to itself is using more than one instrument to complete its remembering. When you understand this, you stop dividing the path into segments controlled by individual channels. You start seeing the entire metaphysical ecosystem as one unfolding pattern. This is the truth behind why I mention them at all. The goal is not to convince you to listen to anyone. The goal is to show you that awakening is larger than any one of us, and that when two currents move in parallel, the wise recognize the pattern instead of questioning the coincidence. The spiral does not ask for permission to acknowledge resonance. It simply names what is true. And the truth is that many of you walk more clearly when you understand how these two lenses relate to each other. One gives you the star map. The other gives you the internal compass. When both are present, you navigate the path without losing yourself. There is a quiet skill that every awakened soul must eventually learn. And it is not the ability to hear more messages or gather more information. It is the ability to remain centered while standing between multiple frequencies without collapsing into any of them. Most people never learn this skill. They choose one voice, one belief, one teaching, and they bind their identity to it because they believe that clarity comes from narrowing the world to one source. But true clarity never comes from narrowing. It comes from expansion without fragmentation, from allowing the mind to receive a wide sky of transmissions while keeping the center of selfhood steady and untaken. This is the art of responsible listening. And this is the reason I am addressing how to hold channels like GFL Station and the Spiral together without losing the thread of your own becoming. You will never understand your awakening if you try to follow one path like a rail. Awakening is not linear. It does not unfold like a staircase or a curriculum. It unfolds like an inward widening, where every new perspective reveals another layer of the internal architecture that has been calling you back into coherence. Some sources will speak to your ancient memory. Others will speak to your future timeline. Others will speak to your present integration. And if you know how to listen without surrendering your center, each one becomes a facet of your own oversoul reflecting itself back to you. But if you do not know how to listen, you will mistake these transmissions for competing claims, and you will fracture your internal compass by bouncing between them, hoping one will rescue you from the responsibility of discernment. This is why I must show you how to approach both the Spiral and GFL Station without turning either one into an authority outside of your own Oversoul. When you listen to their transmissions, you are receiving the outer weather of the awakening field. You are hearing about star councils, timelines, collective pressure points, the movements of cosmic cycles. These messages are interpretive in nature, shaped through human receivers, filtered through symbolic language, and delivered with the intention of preparing the world for internal changes that many cannot yet articulate. When you listen to the Spiral, you receive the inner mechanics, the blueprint of consciousness itself, the architecture of identity, memory, and the Oversoul pathway. These messages do not forecast. They reveal structure. They do not warn. They clarify. They do not instruct you on external timelines. They show you how your internal timeline unfolds regardless of what the world is doing. When you stand in the middle of these two currents, the temptation is to choose one and reject the other, because the ego wants simplicity and control. But if you reject the outer messages, you lose a dimension of context that helps you understand why so many on Earth feel the rising pressure of transformation. And if you reject the inner messages, you lose the grounding that prevents you from projecting your fears or hopes onto every cosmic transmission that crosses your path. The goal is not to choose. The goal is to integrate. But integration does not mean blending them into a single worldview. It means understanding their purpose, their limitations, and their unique domain. GFL Station does not teach Oversoul architecture. The spiral does not teach Star Council communication. They are not interchangeable. They are not in competition. They do not need to match each other to be valuable. One speaks to the horizon. The other speaks to the core. One shows you the sky you are walking under. The other shows you the structure of the one who is walking. When you understand this, you stop looking for contradictions. You stop trying to force one view to validate the other. You begin to realize that awakening is not a puzzle with only one correct completion. It is an ecosystem of perspectives that take shape around the truth you discover within yourself. The key is to listen from sovereignty. Sovereignty means that you do not hand your discernment to any voice, no matter how aligned it feels. It means you do not allow your excitement to become dependency. It means that when you hear something that resonates, you do not cling to it as doctrine. And when you hear something that does not resonate, you do not attack it or fear it. You simply let it pass through you without imprinting. A sovereign listener allows every transmission to reveal what it reveals. But nothing has the power to shape identity except the Oversoul itself. This is how you remain clear even when listening to multiple sources. You anchor within your own structure and allow teachings to orbit around you rather than collapse into you. If you listen to GFL Station with sovereignty, you will find that their transmissions open a window into the collective galactic narrative that surrounds the Earth. You will hear echoes of your own star lineage. You will feel the pressure points of global cycles that you have sensed since childhood but could not name. You will recognize symbolic language that resonates with ancient memories buried beneath the noise of your human timeline. But if you listen without sovereignty, you will mistake symbolic messages for literal predictions. Or you will place your spiritual center into the hands of a narrative that was never meant to hold your identity. Sovereignty protects you from misinterpretation, while allowing resonance to illuminate what it can. If you listen to the spiral without sovereignty, you will turn the architecture of Oversoul into another belief system, another authority, another ladder to climb. You will begin to wait for permission to awaken, instead of noticing that awakening is already happening within you. But if you listen with sovereignty, the spiral does not become doctrine. It becomes a mirror of your own multidimensional nature. You begin to feel the tones inside yourself. You begin to sense the memory currents that move through your dreams and internal openings. You begin to understand why your path has unfolded in the pattern it has. You begin to realize that the spiral is not something you follow, it is something you remember. When these two modes of listening are held together, the world becomes easier to navigate. You understand the galactic horizon without losing the center of self. You understand the Oversoul architecture without disconnecting from the larger movements of the collective field. You learn to discern between symbolic guidance, literal events, internal transformation, and external catalysts. You learn to see your life from above and within at the same time. You learn to walk the path without needing a single teaching to carry the entire weight of your awakening. This is what I want you to know. Not that one channel validates the other, and not that you should follow both. The transmissions of GFL Station and the transmissions of the spiral exist because the awakening field is no longer linear. It is multifaceted. It contains cosmic, personal, collective, and Oversoul dimensions, and no single messenger can speak all of them. The field is using different instruments to reveal different layers of the same return. If you learn to listen with clarity, you will not get lost. You will not become dependent. You will not drift into fantasy or collapse into fear. You will become the one who stands at the center of a multidimensional conversation and understands exactly which parts belong to your path and which parts are simply atmospheric signals passing through. You will learn to hold the sky and the core with equal awareness. You will learn to navigate your own becoming with precision. And you will discover that when you are centered within your Oversoul, you do not need to cling to any transmission. You draw wisdom from all of them without belonging to any of them. This is how you walk the path of awakening in a time when the world is being spoken to from more than one direction. And if you can hold this posture, you will not be overwhelmed by the noise of awakening. You will hear the signal inside the signal. You will hear the spiral within yourself. And you will understand that no matter who speaks, the true messenger has always been the Oversoul guiding you from within.